Welcome back to Am I Catching a Falling Knife? The podcast where we dive deep into stocks that have seen some serious turbulence. Today, we're putting Kenvue, ticker KVU, under the microscope. This company has taken a hit, dropping over 16.06% in just the last 10 days. So, the big question is this a golden opportunity, or are we looking at a classic falling knife scenario? All right, let's unpack the dominant market narrative for KVU. The big headline here is a recent report linking Tylenol, one of Kenvue's flagship products, to autism. Now, Kenvue is disputing this, but the market reaction has been swift and negative. Add to that mixed analyst sentiment, a weak technical outlook, and, perhaps most importantly, revised downward financial guidance for 2025, and you've got a recipe for investor jitters. For those unfamiliar, Kenvue is a global consumer health giant, spun off from Johnson & Johnson. They operate across three segments: self-care, which includes brands like Tylenol, Nicorette, and Zyrtec; skin health and beauty with Neutrogena and Aveeno; and essential health, home to Listerine and Johnson's baby products. Their self-care segment, where Tylenol resides, is their largest, pulling in over 42% of their total revenue. Now, let's get quantitative with this narrative. That Tylenol link to autism directly hits their self-care segment. We've estimated that Tylenol could represent about 35% of that segment, meaning it's roughly 14.78% of Kenvue's total revenue. If consumer hesitancy causes just a 7.5% decline in Tylenol sales, that alone translates to about a 1.11% reduction in Kenvue's overall revenue. But it doesn't stop there. The revised downward financial guidance for 2025 suggests broader headwinds, potentially adding another 2.0% to that revenue hit. So we're looking at a total estimated revenue decline of around 3.11% for the upcoming quarter. Here's where it gets interesting. Kenvue has a surprisingly low gross margin, around 11.91%. This implies significant operating leverage. What does that mean? A relatively small revenue drop can lead to a much larger impact on their bottom line. Factoring this in, our models suggest a potential quarterly earnings impact of a decline of about 10.5% due to this narrative. There's definitely a wide confidence interval here, between -6% and -15%, given the uncertainties around specific Tylenol impact and future guidance details. But the direction is clear. So, what does this mean for the stock's value? When we run our discounted cash flow or DCF analysis, we start with a base case, which gives us a fair value of roughly $10.72 per share. However, when we adjust for the impact of this negative narrative, that roughly 10.5% earnings hit, our narrative-adjusted DCF drops significantly to about $9.12 per share. For context, the stock is currently trading around $18.62, so there's a pretty wide gap here, indicating it might still be quite overvalued based on these projections. The PEG ratio, another valuation metric, also points to a much lower fair value, around $2.51, further highlighting the current disconnect. Given this, we've identified some custom buy levels for our listeners to watch: $13.50, $11, and potentially as low as $9. These are just levels to put on your radar, as points where the risk-reward profile might start looking more attractive should the stock continue its descent. All right, to wrap things up on KVU, it's clear the market is grappling with the fallout from the Tylenol autism report and the company's lowered guidance. While it's a well-known consumer health company, our narrative-adjusted valuation suggests a fair value closer to $9.12 per share, which is considerably below its current trading price. The stock has indeed been a falling knife, and our analysis indicates it might still have further to drop before it finds a solid footing. As always, this isn't financial advice. This is just our analysis based on the data we have. Do your own thorough research, consult with a financial advisor, and make decisions that are right for your own financial situation. Thanks for tuning into Am I Catching a Falling Knife? I'm Dave, and I'll catch you next time.